Hello, good people. It is my birthday. It's my birthday. And I woke up today in my apartment and I had a half dozen messages from people that really truly matter to me. And it's so far been a great day, even though I've probably been up for like an hour. Um, but it is a happy birthday. This video is not going to be anything fancy. I just kind of wanted to capture my thoughts of the moment. So I'm not even really going to edit this. I'm just going to upload it once I'm done rambling here for a minute. I want to start this video out by saying, wherever you are in the world today, I hope that you are feeling loved and blessed and safe and seen in your life. And I hope that you're remembering to have a kind heart. You know, there's a lot of yuck out there in the world, and we have to remember that our hearts matter, kindness matters. We don't have to engage in the hate and the crazy. We just don't. You know, I feel like right now things are very tumultuous, more so than they even were a couple of weeks ago, because it's like what happened really woke up the other side, and now they're mad and they're like, well, we're going to fight fire with fire. Fight fire with fire, you just burn everything down. I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but my take, my understanding, my belief is that if we just be in the world the way we know we're supposed to be in our hearts, if we're happy, if we're joyful, if we are living lives that we love, we are far more capable of and willing to be loving and kind to other people. So I get that it sounds like hyper selfish or something, but I always come back to, you know, what are my dreams? What makes me happy? What puts me in the best place possible? Because when I'm in a really good place, I can be a lot more loving and kind to the people that I run across. Because when you're in a bad, compromised place, you're grouchy and you don't want to be nice to people. You don't care about people. I mean, that's been my experience. When I've been in the lowest places of my life, it's like, and you can barely kind of like function. You don't have bandwidth to be kind and generous to the populace. So I think that it's like the best and number one priority, like the mission. People keep talking about the mission. The mission is be happy. The mission is fix your life so that you can be a pinpoint of light, of joy, of love in the world. But if your life is a mess, you cannot be that. My 2 cents, my thoughts for what it's worth. Now, back to my birthday. My birthday for me is personally, it's really important to me. And that's something I did intentionally because as a kid, all I ever wanted to do was go to Disneyland for my birthday. So that's always what my family did. We just went to Disneyland. No parties, really. I don't remember ever having a birthday party except for my sweet 16. My grandmother blew it out, invited half the town. It was crazy. And I wore a formal dress. I mean, it was the whole big 9 yards kind of a thing. And I remember feeling honestly a little weird and a little out of place. My grandmother cooked for like a week. I mean, it was beautiful and it's a special memory. But in that moment, 16-year-old me felt incredibly self-conscious and didn't know a lot of the people that were there. It was like, you know, the adults that my grandmother knew. I didn't have a lot of friends, you know, like at all. Like throughout my whole life, I've never had a lot of friends. I've had a couple of close friends, and that's been pretty much it. So it was a strange birthday. But most of the people, they didn't know me, so they gave me money. I remember, I think it was like the next day I was opening up cards and things like that, and that was like the most money I think I'd ever had. I can't tell you how much it was. I don't remember, but it's like that was the most money I'd ever seen. I just remember being very joyful. I was like, "Ooh, money!" The other big memorable birthday I'm going to get to in just a second, but between those 2 birthdays, I was just, people forgot. My husband, God rest his soul, was not we didn't know until after we had separated. We separated towards the end of our marriage. We had been separated for probably 3 years, maybe a little longer than that, actually, when he finally passed away. So, I mean, we were still sort of married, sort of. Long story for another day. Anyway, point is he was not, we found out after we had separated that he had Asperger's syndrome. And God, that explained like every problem we had in our marriage. But point was, he couldn't do birthdays. He couldn't do celebrations. He couldn't like do anything. Like gifts was asking too much of him. But not knowing about the Asperger's, I thought he was just like didn't care about me. Like, yeah. And that was sad. And again, not having a ton of friends, and my mother even used to forget my birthday. It was one of those things. And the one person who's never forgotten my birthday is my dad. I love my dad. I love my dad so much. But, so I ended up my early 20s, mid 20s, I ended up spending a lot of the time hurt. On my birthday was terrible and I hated it. And I remember thinking that I hate my birthday every time it would come around again, because I just knew it was going to be a constant reminder of how little I mattered to anyone. And so I hated my birthday. So somewhere in there, I decided to stop. It wasn't going to change, and that was going to be my lot to hate my birthday every year, or I could turn it into something personal. And that is what I did. Probably, I think I was pregnant with my oldest kid. So that would have been about 24, 25, somewhere in there, mid 20s. Yeah. And I just decided I was going to make it a time to check in with myself. Like, okay, another year here on this planet. What did you get done? What could you celebrate? What was good? What would you like to work on next year? So I turned it into a personal check-in. I spent the day alone, usually at Disneyland. And yeah, with my journals. And I would just really go deep and think about what I wanted my life to be and where I wanted to be the following year. And that's probably how I learned to set goals and create any kind of life that I liked, was from that practice. So that became my practice, my entire, the rest of my 20s and my entire 30s. And then came 39. My 39th birthday. I was living in Virginia with my husband and my kids. My husband and I had been through a lot the previous few years. I had, on the whole, I've had 5 miscarriages over the course of my youth. But 4 of them I had in a short span of time. 2 I had back to back. So my husband and I had been through the ringer at that point. Our home had fallen apart. It was filthy. I was so depressed I barely got out of bed. My poor kids, I don't even know. They were like parenting themselves. It was not good. It was definitely probably the second darkest time of my life. And my poor dear dead husband, who I again had no idea that he had issues. I just thought he didn't care about me at this stage. But he decides he's going to take me away on a little getaway for my 39th birthday. Okay, I'd been wanting to go. We'd been married 18 years at this point. I've wanted to go away on getaways our entire 18 years. We were not a family who traveled anywhere, which hindsight, that was probably good. So, but anyway, it was always a disappointment for me because I wanted to travel. I wanted to go places. I wanted to do things and see things. And we didn't. So this year, poor Dave. I just keep thinking, God rest him. We say often, my sister and I in particular, because my sister knew him, we often will be talking about this or something or the other, and all of a sudden we'll just go, oh, poor dead Dave. I wish he weren't dead. I wish he were still here. But that's a conversation for another day. Also, focus. I've been off carnivore for a week. My brain is scattered and my thoughts are everywhere. So that's a forewarning for you now that you're like halfway into this video. But anyway, so 39, he decides he's taking me away for the weekend. I thought, oh my God, our life is changing. Everything is turning around. This is exciting. He had planned something lovely too. I mean, it was like really nice. Only as the month went on, bills came in, life happened, the budget for my birthday shrunk, plans changed. I spent my 39th birthday. I could laugh about it now, but I spent my 39th birthday in a motel at the side of the highway in the town we lived in. So here I was now 40 years old, and I had a weird sixth sense my whole life that my life wasn't really going to kick off until I was 40. I thought 40 was going to be the best year of my life. I was off by a decade. But I knew I had to do something because otherwise I was just, this was my crossroads of my life. You know, it's like I either need to make some big moves here and claim a life for myself, or I was just going to go down. And not to be disrespectful to anyone in my family, but the people in my family, some of them got very, very large, lost all their dreams, and died very young. And that was not for me. That was not for me. And I wasn't going to do that. So I took a very huge leap of faith, and I told Dave this had to be done. And I broke his heart. I absolutely broke his heart. I assure you, this was not funny at the time, but it's hysterical now. Oh my God. And it was one of these super cheap, seedy motels. There was a jacuzzi tub like in the bedroom, in the room. He tried so hard. But here's the kicker, okay? God love him. God love him. But he forgot to budget money for food, and our bank account was empty. So I think we ended up eating like some snack foods from the gas station next door, like that weekend. That was my birthday. That was my big birthday getaway. I'm just like, oh my God. So once we got home, I sat my husband down and I told him I loved him, but I could not keep living like this. I said, we have 1 year. I said, by the time I'm 40, if we haven't figured stuff out, if we can't get our life back on track, because it was really off the track at that point. I mean, like I said, our house had fallen apart. Our whole lives had fallen apart. And I'm like, if we can't pull it together in a year, I'm like, I have to go somewhere else and pull it together, because this isn't good or right for our kids. It breaks my heart that my kids had to go through that, because I was like that close to a nervous breakdown. So anyway, 40 came. I had the big goal I had for 40 is I wanted to get published. And I was. The week before my 40th birthday, I signed my first publishing contract. The week after my 40th birthday, I signed 2 more. And I would go on to sign 25 or so publishing contracts before I kind of got out of the publishing, changed with ebooks and everything. And it just, I don't know, it just wasn't the same. But anyway, also not a story for today. I am trying to stay focused. I'm also trying to not make this video be 20 minutes long, but I'm not sure it won't be. Anyway, now I'm here in Florida and I'm 49 and I have no money. I still have very few friends. And all I really wanted to do was go to Disney. I had met Donna the year before. We'd become very, very close. And she and I both always talked about our dreams. It's kind of what we bonded over, was we had these dreams. She had just kind of restarted her whole life and had all of these dreams about what she wanted to do. And we would go to Magic Kingdom together and get ice cream, because she loved ice cream. We would get ice cream and we would sit at Carnation. It's not is it Carnation? I don't know what it is here. It's Carnation in California. Anyway, we would sit at the ice cream parlor there at the end of Main Street and have our ice cream and talk about our dreams. And she and I were in very different places. She was a registered nurse, and she got a job as a nurse at SeaWorld, and she had a job at well, at first she was at Advent Health, and then I think she was at a psychiatric hospital. Anyway, she was working 2 jobs. She had a huge settlement from her divorce. She had money in the bank, and she was still waiting for something financially before she would start allowing herself to live her new life, to take a cruise. She wanted to take a cruise, to explore and to do things. She was waiting for something in her job life to stabilize more. I don't think she liked the psychiatric hospital, and the SeaWorld didn't pay enough, obviously. So it was a whole thing. And so when she passed away, like very suddenly, middle of the night, just gone, that hit me really hard about, you cannot put off your dreams. I was putting off my dreams because I had no money. She was putting off her dreams and she had money. So that's why I did the 365 that year. For my 50th birthday, I spent every single day for a year at at Disney World. Just practicing the idea of being present and living now and not letting anything hold you back from your dreams. At that stage, my biggest dream was to go to Disney World every day for a year. And I had my annual pass then, so it wasn't really going to technically cost me anything. So I stepped forward and I did it. And truly, to this point, best year of my whole life. I loved that year. I met so many people. I had so many experiences. Anyway, it is too late to make a long story short, but I'm trying to stay focused. Let's fast forward now to this year. Actually, let's go to last year. So last year, I did the same thing I always do. Birthday comes around, I make all my dreams and goals for the year, make plans, all of that stuff. And I had a lot of them. One of them being, I was gonna take on this experience of the apartment. And it didn't take very long. I was only in it a couple of months, maybe 2 or 3 months when I realized, I had hit already a couple of the other goals that I had. Like I'd had a staycation at the All-Stars, which is where the first place I stayed when I decided to move to Florida. I was staying at the All-Star Sports. So I went back to the All-Star Sports, and I'd already done that. I was doing carnivore. There was a handful of things I was working on, but the apartment, I started to realize the apartment was going to be such a big deal that I had to drop everything else. So all the other goals and dreams I had for last year, there's a pin in them because someday I'm going to do them, but it's not going to be this year either, because it is the point of the video, finally. At long last, you have arrived. If you've made it this far, thank you. You are a blessing to my heart. Thank you. So, this year, learning from last year, I've decided to have one goal. And it is about my health. It is about my weight. It is about my physicality. It is about posture and food and being active. It's sad, but somebody has informed me that apparently I only get older from here. And I don't want to do the aging gracefully thing, but I also don't want to fight it the whole way. It is what it is. But I feel like there are so many things that I could do differently that will allow me to age in a way that I don't lose my mobility, that I don't lose my mental faculties, that I can stay strong. Into my 90s would be great. So that's this year. This year, and I want to be really clear about this. This is for myself. I want to be really clear about this. The year of 59, I am dedicating to creating a lifestyle that supports longevity. I think that's the best way to put it. So I've already talked about this a lot. Carnivore is my ticket. Walking the trails, walking at the parks, getting to the fitness center once I feel a little better in my body. I want to lose a little bit more weight before I tackle the fitness center. Swimming, all of these things. But this isn't a side burner goal this year. This is the goal this year. Everything I do every single day for the next 365 days has to be in support of this goal. And if it's not, I'm not doing it. I'm not saying yes to it. I'm giving this year to myself. I'm giving myself me as a birthday present. I'm giving this year to my health, to my happiness, to my future dreams. And I'm excited about that. So that was my main point. I have a lot of plans. I will be sharing them with you, obviously, along the way. I'm going to be sharing the journey with you along the way. Today, Ari and Amy and I are going to check in at the Drury for just a couple of nights. Ari and I are going to the party tonight, the Halloween party. My favorite musician, oh my gosh, I have like about 4 really favorite musicians that still play at Disney Springs on a regular basis. And one of them may be my top favorite. I'm not sure. I don't know. One of my top favorite musicians is actually playing at Disney Springs tonight. And he doesn't play out there very often. And he played last year on my birthday. So it's like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm getting a total redo on last year's birthday. I wonder if we should go to that Mexican restaurant for dinner. Anyway, focus. But the problem is last year he played actually on my birthday and we'd gone to the party the night before. This year they're both happening on the same night. I am honestly considering going over there for the early set tonight and then going to the party. I'm considering that. I really want to steep today in the energy from last year that was good and positive and drag all of that into this year. Really get the momentum in gear, because I know that the year ahead won't be easy. I know that it's going to require a lot of sacrifice. It's going to require me to be uncomfortable a lot. That walk that I took the other day, by the time I got back to the apartment, I was tired. I was sore for 2 days after that too. But that has to be okay. It has to be okay that I'm going to be sore. I'm going to be sore. I'm going to be tired. I'm going to not want to move that much after I do a workout, whatever it is, I'm going to do the right thing by me, by my body this year. There, I've said it. And then we'll see next year's streams. And I feel like if I do that, I can make next year's streams be more about travel. And that would be really exciting for me. I can start, I'm really looking forward to kicking off my 60s in a very active way, in a very different way than I've ever lived before. So this year is going to be about that, about body and stuff. And then there's an underlying aspect of, I've been talking about getting out of survival mode and getting into stability, but I need to stick the stability. And that's a lot of mental shifts. Like, I have to understand and realize that this is my life now and it's not going away. And the boogeyman is not coming out from behind a corner to take away my apartment and my life here in Celebration. So, I still have some emotional work to do and some healing to do. Don't we always? But I'm going to wrap this up because I know I talked for way longer than I meant to. But I thank you for listening. And I thank you for being here. And if you got all the way to the end, I really appreciate you. Next video you see will probably be whatever I get from the next few days at the party and at the staycation. I am so grateful for all the birthdays that I've had, good and bad, for the life that I've lived, for the lessons that I've learned, for my relationship with God, for my spirituality, for the knowledge and wisdom that I've gained, for the people that I know, that I love.